outside. Good morning. Good morning. It's 5 a.m. Mester Scrum. Hope all is doing well. You can see it's light out. It's about 7:51. I'll have to write that down. 7:51. Late. You know what? If I don't do this at 5 a.m., it ain't gonna happen until later because my kids are loud. Anyway, hope everybody's doing well and had a great weekend. Got a lot of things done. Here we talk about Scrum and Agile activities. I'm going to put a blog post up probably later today on my LinkedIn. Just watching people achieve things. We went and did some get ready for training, and while I was doing that, my kids, I took them to a little ninja park, and it was interesting watching my son and my daughter, both of them, trying to do the jumping from board to board across the park, and they both fell and they got hurt. And they bashed their shins up. But you know what? They kept going. They failed, right? But they got back up on it and try it. And by the time they got going, they were just flying across the Ninja Park thing. And we got to take them as an example. So I thought it would be great when I snapped those videos and put them in as examples of, yeah, you're going to hurt. First time it's going to be clunky when you do this Agile and Scrum stuff, clunky. Why am I doing this? Don't get it. But you know, once you start doing it a few times and repeating it, it's going to get better and it's going to get easier. And the more, like we talked about earlier in a previous session, where you know, the more times you do these things, the better at you're going to get. So it's true. It's true in Scrum, true in doing kid ninja activities. And my little one, he's too small for it, but he still does it. Poor guy. But you know, so something to think about. So I want to continue to talk about how do you get 30 to 50% improvement in your teams from what they were. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the teams I've done over the past, what experience I've had, and some feedback I've had. And then maybe do a whole series all week long. While I was waiting for everybody to leave to calm down, I was writing down what two things I'd put, like every day I'll put two things. So yesterday we talked about a couple of things. So yesterday I got my little book, right? You know, one, I said limiting your backlog, making sure the team can achieve it, right? And that was number one. And it really is number one. Number two is being able to test in the sprint. You got to achieve those two things if you want to get that 30% to 50% product improvement or throughput or productivity increase, right? So I'm going to give you two. I'm going to assume everybody has Jira, Azure, Rally, Trello, something to manage the data, because so many teams nowadays are distributed teams. They're not all in the same place, but even a co-located team, I'll tell you, when developers are sitting there and testers are there coding, 4 hours a shot, they're not really paying attention to what's going around them. And if you don't track that stuff and record that stuff so they can see it pop up on the screen, it's just not going to work. And I can later on in a bunch of episodes, I'll show how to optimize all those tools and even build metrics and things like that. But I'm going to assume everybody has that capability already. If you don't, let me know, and I'll help coach you and help you advise you on maybe some of the things you should get and what you should do if your organization doesn't have one of those capabilities already. Because most of the places I've been dropped into already have something in place. There's been a few cases where they never had it before and they just started, and I had to coach them on how to install it and actually end up being like a Jira administrator and all that kind of stuff. And I think I had to administrate everything at some point in time. So we'll assume we got that. So, but one piece of software I've seen a lot of companies, and I'm really shocked how many companies don't have it, is a good piece of communication software. I've seen some people use Skype and they use email. You'd be amazed how many companies do not have a persistent chat capability in their systems. You'd think they all would have that, something like a Slack, but they don't, right? And that is really one of the first things I push to get into a company's infrastructure, is some way for the developers to communicate via chat save the communications. You got a bug, it allows you to track everybody working on a bug. You can bring people from outside the organization or the team on an issue by inviting them to the chat. And there's stuff like Slack's a very good product. That's cloud-based. I learned about a new one called Mattermost, which is kind of like Slack, a little bit lighter on the thing. But the nice thing about Mattermost is you can install it on your internal servers and you can host it yourself. It's open source code. So if you have a lot of security restrictions and all that, at least it'll be inside your firewall versus Slack, which is cloud-based. So now you need a connection through your firewall to get to it. Ideally, you'd be able to put attachments on these things. I've seen a lot of places where they can't. You got to put rules and try to figure out what to do that. But you really need a good communication tool for the people to talk. Some people will tell you, can't they just turn around and talk to each other all day? Have you seen what goes on in the world today? Everybody's on their, their little iPads. They got their, I got my phone, they're on their phones, chatting away with their friends and all that. You need this in the office too. So having a chat, they like it. They like putting emojis. One guy was telling me his group, they had this built 200 and some odd custom emojis. They enjoy it. So old school would be like, go turn around and talk to someone. Reality is you need a communication tool that maintains and does a persistent chat so that you don't have to have 50 million windows open all day long, because that's one of the things that Skype doesn't do very well, is that it drops the communication. It's cluttered. Yeah, you can tie it out. Look, yeah, you can do that, but it misses lots of communication. When you have a persistent chat program, it doesn't miss anything and it stays there. And if you have to invite, what I like about it is if you invite somebody on, they can read up and get up to speed on all the things everybody's done to try to fix the problem or what's going on. Plus, it's great for when you upload software and, hey, I need help. It just helps. Like, it pops up, hey, I need someone to do a code review, and we'll talk about that later. People can hop on and do that. I've used Slack many places, but I'm telling you, that's like first piece of software I search around as an Agile coach in the organization. Do you have this capability at our place? And if you have it, I get it implemented every day. And I'm actually doing it now with like 450 people. I'm out there pinging them, get on this. They're like, I don't know, I don't want to do it. But I'm telling you, it will help and people like it because it is so much like chatting on your phone. Okay? Just get with it, right? So that they need. So talked about extra piece of software. Everybody wants some software tool. The fourth one that I'm gonna give you. So the first one was don't overcommit. Let them not, they don't have to overcommit and be successful. The second one was testing in the sprint, and we'll talk more about that in a couple other follow-up sessions. Third is have a good communication software. Fourth is set the people up for success. Now, we said about letting them not take on enough work. But now this is where the product owner or BA, depending on how your organization is set up, needs to contribute to the process. Scrum Masters, you have to help push for this too. If your team's velocity is, let's just pick a number, 30, okay? And we talked about this in a previous episode. Don't introduce like 40 or 50 stories at sprint planning. Do not introduce 40 or 50 stories at a refinement session. And we'll talk about all of them in the future. So many episodes to do. But do not show up in that room with more work than they're doing on the average velocity. If you do, it's your fault when they do not produce, because now they got a pressure on them to say, management, my customer business wants me to overproduce what I can do, and they get anxiety and they fail. And they fail because the product owner brings that stuff to the table, and the Scrum Masters let that happen. I'm being harsh right now, but it's so darn true. Do not show up at sprint planning session, and I'm getting loud on this one, and bring more story points to the job than they can handle. They will tell you when to add more story points, but you are the gatekeepers. You have to work with the team. You have to understand the team That's the product owner job. That's why they make a product owner part of the team. It's you got to do that, right? And I know I'm getting a little excited on it because sometimes I get passionate and people, oh, the product owner, I don't know the job, I don't pay attention. You're spending hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars of work to get your software coded. Take a interest in what's getting developed. Set your team up for success, because when your team's successful, you're going to be successful and you're going to get promoted because your software just made millions of dollars for your company. So think about long term, right? But anyway, the fourth thing that I'll bring you is do not bring more points to the table at sprint planning than the average velocity of the team can handle. Let the team ask you for more points, but never show up with more than the average. So if your team does 30, do not show up there with 40. Do not show up there with 32. Do not show up with 31. Show up with 30. And if you're really good, you know what you're doing, you show up with like 28 points. You actually go below the threshold. Let your team control their destiny. Let them, so come in at 28. Let them ask you for more. That way they are more committed because they asked for the work. You didn't push it to them. They asked you. I should do a whole blog post on how, what the psychological advantage of letting them ask you for the work. Trust me, they will do more work if they're asking for the work than if you push it to them. Got it? All right, I'm gonna let it go with that. I got a little crazy. So there is 4 things. We're gonna do a whole week thing, because remember, our goal was to get a 30 to 50% improvement, not hiring people, not working extra hours. I'm only going to do 40 hours a week. I'm taking my breaks. I'm doing some fun. And I promise you, you will get 30 to 50% improvement, if not more, because there's so many places where I, depending how it's written, Jeff Sutherland says you get twice as much work done in half the time. It is true that you can do that, and I will back him up with that. I have data that shows to do that. But you can get there if you really do it. And like I said, you have to trust the process and you have to practice it. Like my kid doing the ninja thing where he's jumping from plate to plate, put that up, and he bashed his knee. One point he banged his head on his chin on one thing. He was crying like a baby. Needed mom and had to share him. But you know what? He got back on it. And you know what? He did it. You know, it was a little clunky at first. It was awkward. He didn't have trust. But once he did it a few times, it was second nature to him. And he just cruised through the course. So just think about that. You know, first couple of times you do this stuff, and this is why the more sprints, the better, not less. Don't do a month iteration. Work yourself down there, a 3 week, down to a 2 week, down to 1 week. 2 is better. 1 is awesome. 2 weeks, a nice middle ground for people who haven't done it before. But the more times you get to do this, the better you get it. And I'll have to put that video up. Anyway, thank you very much. Have a great day. 5 a.m. Mester Scrum, even though it's 8 o'clock, 3 hours late. What are you going to do? And still putting it out there. It's live. Please like and subscribe. Share with your friends. See us on LinkedIn. We have a site. I'm going to try to tell my LinkedIn friends to connect to the site. We're on Spotify. We're on Google Play. Still got to find out if I'm on iTunes yet. We're on a bunch of different social medias, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, right? So we're out there in LinkedIn. So we're all on the different social medias. Go click and like and subscribe us, share with your friends. And you all have an awesome day. It is Monday. You know, I'm getting all pumped up because I got to take on this effort at my job where they want a 50%. You know, they need an improvement. So I'm just going through it now. Anyway, take care. Have a great day and enjoy. Happy scrumming. Happy scrumming. Yeah. Awesome.